And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside by Andrew Johnson. And Andrew, that time has finally arrived. It is WrestleMania week. Saturday and Sunday, the showcase of the Immortals will take place, emulating from Lincoln Financial Field, and we will be in attendance for this Saturday and Sunday for WrestleMania in Philly. Should be a fun time regardless. 13 matches on the card slated to be this upcoming weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun.
They were scaring me. I was convinced that we weren't going to see this many matches, but
we were going with 10 for a little bit.
Let's go with 10. I'm like, hey, this seems a little bit too. The pacing's not going to be right. This is starting at 6:30, and if it's going to go to probably 11 o'clock, the pacing's not right here. So I'm happy they added a match or two for both days. And we'll go into this later. You mentioned that there's 13. There should be 7 on both days, right?
There should be, yeah.
So I'm saying there's going to be a surprise on one of these days. So whatever day doesn't have the 7 matches, which I believe is Saturday.
I think it's Saturday.
So I think that's going to be the surprise.
Yes, it's Saturday has 7 matches. Sunday has 6.
So on Sunday night we're gonna get the surprise then. Last year it was R-Truth. I'm sorry. Last year it was Shane McMahon returning, and then he tore both his quads. And just like Vince,
they haven't announced the host for Mania, right?
Nope, no host.
Yeah, I guess that would be the slot where like they have a wrestler come out and some celebrity like does something.
I think it's going to be Pretty Deadly hosting WrestleMania, and it's going to be a tag team of Travis and Jason Kelsey.
I will absolutely throw up if that happens.
Hey, listen, Jason Kelsey in Philly?
I will throw up. They're going to bring Jason Kelsey in. I know that's going to happen.
They're big wrestling fans.
I know, but God, I would throw up. I would actively root for Pretty Deadly if that was the case. Like, I don't mind Travis Kelsey. It's the other Kelsey I mind.
No, I'm kind of opposite.
I know for your factor. Wow, I'm watching the Ranger game as well, Johnson. There's a lot of fighting going on in this game. But
anyways,
there's also going to be a lot of fighting this upcoming weekend. I like that transition right there. I did that right there. Like that. I like it.
Sure,
why not? So let's talk about some of the matches that we're going to be seeing this upcoming Saturday and Sunday. A lot build, obviously, to the show. One in particular has gotten the attention of not only the WWE world, but the mainstream world, as we know there's a big main event on both Saturday and Sunday night revolving around that one storyline. But there is still another 11 matches to go about on this entire card. So keep in mind that we don't know the exact order that these matches will be taking place on Saturday and Sunday. We only know the main event for both of these shows, and that will obviously close the show for both Saturday night and Sunday night. So the remaining matches are to be determined of when they will take place. We just found out as of Monday when these matches will be taking place and where they're going to be going on their separate dates. So let's start off with a match that just recently got added to the show that's happening on Saturday. The LWO and Legado del Fantasma continue their rivalry, but they now have added a new little wrinkle to their rivalry. As this Saturday, it will be Rey Mysterio and the newest member of the LWO, Dragon Lee, taking on Santos Escobar, the leader of Legado del Fantasma, and Rey Mysterio's son Dominic, as they rekindle their rivalry from last year. Dominic now trying to get another one-up on his father after losing his match to Rey last year at WrestleMania in this tag team match. There's been some hints at both sides of the thing, maybe a heel turn, maybe a different changing of styles for a faction in the WWE, one in particular. But overall, Johnson, what are your thoughts about this matchup? Who do you have winning this matchup?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that Santos Escobar and Dominic Mysterio are going to win this match. So, they're not going to have Dom lose to his father 2 times in a row at WrestleMania. I think that'd be dumb. I think they're trying to set up a future WrestleMania match with maybe Santos down the line so he could retire Rey, maybe as soon as next year, because he just did recently make the Hall of Fame. He's getting up there in age. So if there's one wrestler that, or could even be Dragon Lee. I think any of these wrestlers in here, one of them's going to retire Rey Mysterio one day. So one of Dragon Lee, Santos Escobar, and Dominic Mysterio, it's going to retire Rey Mysterio next WrestleMania. But give me Santos and Dom.
Okay. I will agree with you. I think Santos and Dom get the win, and I think there's a reason why they get the win. I don't know if you picked it up on SmackDown when they were making this match, but it seemed as if everyone kind of thought it was going to be Rey Mysterio, maybe Carlito, getting this tag team match, and then obviously Dragon Lee was announced as the newest member, and you kind of saw Carlito giving that like look of disdain and like not very happy about the choice of the matchup. And it was kind of similar to what happened. Remember when Ray and Santos started beefing because of Carlito being added to the group, and that's when Santos Escobar kind of leaned away from Rey Mysterio, ultimately led to his heel turn. I think we get a Carlito heel turn on this Saturday, and he costs Ray and Dragon Lee the matchup. Now, does that mean that he'll join Legado after that? Not entirely sure. But Carlito's better as a heel anyway. We've seen that from his his previous runs of the WWE. But I think he helps, Santos and Dom get the win. They get their moment at WrestleMania. Obviously, Dragon Lee will show up in this matchup for sure, being that it's also his first WrestleMania. But I just don't really see a reason why Ray needs this match. It's more of Santos and Dominic need this match to kind of solidify them being a bigger heel on on the entire company card. So I can see Carlito getting the heel turn and helping Santos and Dominic win this matchup.
Yep, and Ray can help put over emerging talent in his son and Santos Escobar if he can be taken a little bit more seriously. And who knows, maybe even Dom will have a face turn in a little bit. Oh, that will be interesting over the next couple of months.
Well, we'll talk about why I think there's going to be a different formation of a faction in the WWE, because you kind of also seen a hinting of the Judgment Day starting to maybe looking like they're going to be not the same after
It's been like
WrestleMania.
that for about 6 months now,
And it
though.
has been like that, but it seems more evident
It
than
seems
ever
more likely now.
because you've seen Dominic the last couple of weeks. He's been, not talking to the group. He's been doing stuff on his own.
With
And they're,
LWO.
and
Oh,
they're,
I'm sorry for
and,
Legado del
and you think,
Fantasma.
and they're you're making you try to think that it's going to be Dominic that gets kicked out of the group. It's most likely going to be Damian Priest.
I
I think
think
the
it's going to be
right.
Finn.
You think it's going to be Finn?
I think Finn gets kicked out.
I think Damian gets kicked out because something will happen with the Money in the Bank cash in, and I'm not sure what exactly happens with it. If he wins the title or not, depending on what title that's going to be. But regardless of that, I think that's been an issue for since he won the briefcase. Remember that whole Seth Rollins rivalry? That was a big reason why, and they said that even then that briefcase will cause a problem within the group. It certainly hasn't smoothed anything easier than the last couple months, and I think they want you to believe it's going to be Dominic getting kicked out, but I think it's going to be Priest. But it could be Balor too. I think either one of them is not going to be in the group after Mania. But
And
we'll talk
just
about
as
that matchup
a
later.
weird coincidence, today's the 2-year anniversary of the Judgment Day forming. Formed
Oh,
on April 3rd, 2022. This recording is April 3rd, 2024.
right. That was WrestleMania 38.
Yes, it was. So it's been 2 years since Edge and Damian Priest. I'm sorry. The artist formerly known as Edge, the
Edge.
rated R superstar,
That's
Adam
Adam
Copeland.
Copeland to you. Yeah.
Yep.
So let's go into now our second matchup we have on Saturday. Another matchup that just recently got added as of this past Friday on SmackDown. A 6-woman tag team match between Damage Control taking on a trio of Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Jay Cargill. Obviously, Damage Control has a new identity now with no Bailey in the group. Dakota Kai is now I guess, the aforementioned leader now of this group. Asuka and Kairi saying they are the tag team champions as well. And they're facing a trio of Bianca, who's obviously had her issues with Damage Control since the day one where they got formed. Naomi just recently came back to the WWE after a stint with TNA. She's had her issues with Damage Control, and we just saw on SmackDown on Friday, Jade Cargill made her SmackDown debut, helped Bianca and Naomi fend off Damage Control to end the show, and that led to the 6-woman tag team match being set up for WrestleMania. This obviously being Jade Cargill's WWE debut. She obviously was in the Royal Rumble. That was her first appearance on the roster. She now gets her first match on the roster on this Saturday. I think you and I will both agree on this one. It's got to be Bianca, Naomi, and Jade Cargill.
It's not Damage Control. Jade Cargill's going over. Bianca
Yeah.
is super. I don't want to say super over because I know she's over with younger
Still
fans.
one of the top. Yeah.
She's one of the top. She's one of the top females on the
Yeah.
roster in that division, and especially with Jade Cargill, they're gonna book her strong. So I think Damage Control loses this, and maybe they turn on Dakota that night, so they help Bailey the following night. Which Dakota helps Bailey the following night. Who knows? But we'll find out.
I doubt that happens, but maybe. You never know. I could see this playing out where they try to help try to help Io the next night, and then Bianca, Naomi, and Jade they help Bailey win the match. It kind of seems as if that's where they're leaning towards, Bianca helping Bailey after all this. All this stuff happening with Bailey and her the last 2 years or whatever it's been since Damage Control got introduced. But yeah, I see Jade pitting Dakota Kai to end the match. That's probably what's going to end up happening. Bianca and Naomi most likely will win the tag team titles down the road. I think. Who knows? But I just don't see a scenario where Damage Control wins this match whatsoever. The next match, though, I think is the biggest wild card matchup of the entire weekend because there's a new little wrinkle to this matchup. That being the six-pack ladder match for the undisputed tag team titles. You have the Judgment Day, who are the current tag team champions. They will be defending the titles against DIY, being Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. New Catch Republic, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. The New Day of Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. The Awesome Truth of R-Truth and The Miz. And the team of Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. And the wrinkle Johnson for this match, obviously, is we've seen the tag team titles be, unified for the last almost 2 years now since, the Usos won the titles from RK Bro. That's seems to be almost 2 years ago, I think, as of this will come maybe in April or
That
May,
riddle
whatever
hasn't
it
been in the
is.
company in like 6 months.
Right. And they, fans have been clamoring for the titles to be split because it's not really helping the titles whatsoever. And it seems as if we're going to have that scenario on Saturday because they mentioned on Raw that both titles have to be brought down not at the same time. At least two teams could potentially win this matchup. And we could see finally this splitting of these two titles and could see two new brand tag team champions coming out of Saturday's pay-per-view. So I think what we'll do, Johnson, is for the sake of this matchup, let's try to figure out who the two teams are going to be potentially. It does seem like they're going to split it finally after this weekend. So, who are the two teams you think come out on top as Raw and SmackDown tag team champions?
Oh man, this is going to be a hot take. Now, there are betting odds available for 12 to 13 matches. This is the only one that you cannot bet on because even odds makers have no idea what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
So, this is my prediction. I think that R-Truth is going to climb the ladder and he's going to take down the Raw and SmackDown titles for himself, and he's going to be conflicted with The Miz and Damian Priest both screaming at him. He's going to throw one title to The Miz and one title to Damian Priest. So you're going to have the Awesome Truth and Damian Priest and R-Truth be champions at the same time.
So you got Awesome Truth and Judgment Day win as the winners.
No, R-Truth and Damian Priest.
Wait, now I'm confused.
R-Truth is going to grab the SmackDown and Raw titles for himself. And then he's going to be so conflicted on what to do with the other two belts. He's going to throw one of his SmackDown or Raw titles to The Miz and one of his SmackDown and Raw titles to Damian Priest. Meaning R-Truth will be the unified tag team champion, and he's going to have either the SmackDown championships with Miz or Damian Priest and vice versa. He's going to have both belts, but Damian Priest is going to have one and Miz is going to have one.
That just confused the absolute.
What's so confusing about it?
Because I don't know how that would work.
Because they're going to have all four belts up there, right?
Balor is no longer a champion?
Yes.
So R-Truth, the undisputed tag team champion with Damian Priest and The Miz as one of his partners.
Yes. The Miz is going to get one of the belts, and Damian Priest is going to get the other belt.
Okay, that's certainly not where I thought you were going to go with that.
I think he's going to get confused, and he's not going to know who to pick between Miz and Damian Priest. I realize he wants to get out of Judgment Day, but I think Damian Priest will kind of tug on his heartstrings a little bit, and he's going to convince him to throw on one of the titles.
Okay. Yeah, it's certainly definitely not where I thought you were going to go with this match. I do have the Awesome Truth winning one of the belts. I think it's tough. I have Awesome Truth winning the Raw tag team titles. Now, the SmackDown tag team titles is where it gets difficult because there's only two teams for SmackDown in this matchup. And I kind of feel like they're kind of leaning towards Theory and Waller being, split up very soon. You kind of seen that the last couple of months, and I think one of those two is going to be a face. Most likely would be Theory after WrestleMania. So I don't think they're going to win. I was kind of leaning towards them maybe being the team to win this match as the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I don't see the Judgment Day winning this matchup at all because I feel like that split is coming, and Damian Priest will not be a Tag Team Champion. He'll most likely, I think, could be seeing him cashing in on one of these two nights, very possible, or maybe even on Monday Night Raw, whatever the case is. I think one of these the final 3 days of WrestleMania week, could very well see the Damian Priest cash in finally happen. So for the other tag team titles, I'm gonna go. I don't like it. I'm gonna go with DIY. I guess I'm not a fan. I think the New Day, you could make the easy case to put them, but they don't really need another tag team title run. They've kind of already cemented their spot. I'm not a huge fan of New Catch Republic. I mean, maybe sure that they can win, but not really sold on them. And like I mentioned, I think Theory and Waller are going to split up very soon. If I had to pick between DIY and Theory and Waller, I'd probably take DIY, but Theory and Waller maybe could just surprise me and they could get the other tag team title belt. I do see the scenario where R-Truth grabs both titles, but instead of, throwing it down both belts to the Miz, he'll throw down one set of titles to the Miz, and then the other set of titles he just like accidentally, get intercepted by the other team, and that's where you see the splitting of the tag team titles. So kind of got an Otis moment from the Money in the Bank ladder match in 2020, but
I think he's
I
only gonna throw
digress.
one down, but we'll see.
Maybe I think that's like I said. I think that's the most unpredictable match we have. Maybe not the most unpredictable, but you could bring out a lot of scenarios that could happen in this match. So I think no matter what, we're guaranteed to see two different teams win the tag titles no matter what. I think that's where we at least kind of meet common ground for this matchup. But let's move on to the next matchup, and that being the Uso Mania, as I like to point this one out. The brothers finally fighting at WrestleMania, the third time in history that we get a brother versus brother matchup at WrestleMania. Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso. Jimmy, as we all know, turned on Jey at SummerSlam, cost him the Universal title in that match against Roman Reigns. It's also cost him the tag team titles, the Intercontinental title, and Jey Uso's now looking finally to get some revenge against his brother in this matchup at WrestleMania. Johnson, who do you have winning this match between the two Usos?
I think you have to go with Jey Uso, right? Because Jimmy's had the payoff all year of just interfering in his brother's matches, whether it's for the Intercontinental Championship, the United States Championship, Tag Team
All
Championships.
right, forgot about the U.S. title too. Forgot
He
about that.
has to. This is where Jey gets over, right? And he's main event Jey Uso for a reason. I know they have the stress of this is only the third real life brothers fighting, but who can forget about kayfabe brothers Undertaker and
Right.
Kane? So I realize Hardy's, Bret
Yeah, the
Hart, and
Hardys, Bret and Owen. Yep.
now it's Jimmy J. But you can't forget about Undertaker Kane. They kind of want to sweep that under the rug. I'm not gonna let them do that. But give me Jey
Yeah.
Uso here.
See, I think Jey should win. I have a bad feeling they're going to let Jimmy Uso win this match. Because remember, you brought up one of those matches where I feel like that's why. Both of the matchups that we saw in the other two ties, Owen Hart and Matt Hardy, the two people you did not expect to win their respective brother versus brother matchups, they won those matchups. Bret Hart, that same night, he lost to Owen Hart, won the WWE title. Jeff Hardy had been a WWE champion up until that point, and Matt Hardy was doing pretty much nothing. He was just, wrestling in ECW as their champion. So they had pretty much had nothing going on at the time for both of them. And then they won at WrestleMania being their, more over the hype brother. I want Jey Uso to win, but I think Jimmy Uso pulls off, I think, a big upset in this matchup. I got Jimmy Uso winning.
Jimmy Uso. Okay, we have some disagreements
I'm go
again.
I'm going based off of history. I think Jay should win, but I could very well see them pulling a swerve and giving Jimmy Uso the matchup, and maybe because of Solo Sikoa interfering in the match.
He's gonna say the national anthem beforehand.
Just he sings the national anthem beforehand, and then he costs Jay Uso the
Oh,
matchup.
okay, making sure.
Yeah. Let's go on to this next matchup for the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther defending the title against Sami Zayn. Obviously, there's been some wrinkles on the road to WrestleMania for the Intercontinental title. Obviously, not the pre-planned matchup for Gunther at WrestleMania. Some wrinkles went in, as I mentioned. Won't go into that much further than that. Sami Zayn won a gauntlet match a couple weeks ago on Raw to solidify his spot at WrestleMania, getting this Intercontinental title match. Does the reign end, Johnson, on Saturday? Saturday would be the 666th date for Gunther as champion. So that is a very ominous number for Gunther going into this matchup against Sami Zayn. Do you think he retains, or can Sami pull off what would a lot of people would consider be a huge WrestleMania upset?
The greatest upset of all time. Probably. Probably, at least in the modern era. Gunther's going to win this. He's going to win it easily. It's going to be a 10-minute match, and he's going to walk into Berlin as champion. Listen, I realize that plans have changed. Maybe if he was going to lose to Brock Lesnar here, and then he challenges Drew in Berlin for that world title, which I think were the original plans. But they have the opportunity now because there's not going to be any real competition for him. And now he has the opportunity to go into Berlin, having that title for maybe close to 800 days.
Yeah.
I think it's just too obvious here. And maybe he even loses in Berlin to someone like Ilya Dragunov. You never know. So that could be a hell of a matchup.
Because this could be Dragunov's last week in NXT if he loses the title.
I think it is. I think it is. I'm not talking NXT, but I think it's going to be his last match in NXT, and I think he's going to end up coming up to the main roster, and he's going to be one to dethrone Gunther.
Remember, he's the one that dethroned Gunther for the UK title when Gunther had that long range.
And they had a hell of a match. Imagine having that in Berlin, filled with tens of thousands of people.
I think in terms of storyline also, we've mentioned it so many times, it made more sense for Chad Gable to be in this matchup. He's kind of helped Sami Zayn along the way, trying to help him beat Gunther in this match. But the story just for me isn't there. Sami maybe, obviously had the WrestleMania moment last year, main event, won the tag team titles. I'm just not sold on it this year. It would be nice for him to win, but I'm at the point where I don't want him to win this matchup. I really would rather have Gunther retain the title. Maybe you put him in the world title picture right after. You could have, he doesn't have to put up his Intercontinental title. He can just fight for the world title for like the next month or two. And then you set up that matchup with Dragunov, or just set up the matchup with Dragunov immediately right after WrestleMania. I'm okay with either or, but Gunther has to have a convincing person to lose the title to before he goes into a world title picture. And for me, Sami Zayn, as much as I like him, I'm just not convinced that he could win this match. So I've got Gunther retaining the title as well.
Alrighty then. So I think our next match is the women's world title match. And if you had told me this months ago, I think my opinion would have been different. But we have Rhea Ripley champion over a year at this point, dethroning Charlotte Flair at last year's WrestleMania in a match that stole the show. Some would say one of the best matches of the whole event. Definitely one of the best matches of the night.
Yep.
We have Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch here. And I gotta say, I think Rhea goes over. I was kind of convinced that maybe she was going to lose here, but I don't think they're ready to kind of cash in this cash cow yet. And I think they're going to have her maybe defend it in like a triple threat where she gets injured and then have Money in the Bank kind of steal away from her. But I don't think she loses here.
Yeah, I agree.
They also haven't extended Becky's contract too. Got to take that into mind.
I doubt she's leaving. She'll probably.
No, she will never leave Seth with the travel schedule of their daughter. That'll never happen. But
she wouldn't leave. We know obviously Becky won the Elimination Chamber to get this matchup as well. We kind of knew the writing was on the wall. Whenever we previewed that show, Becky was going to win that match. But you look at the storyline for this matchup too, and they want you to believe that Becky can pull this off. But Rhea just is so over right now with the crowd, even as a heel. And I feel like eventually she's going to turn face. I don't know when that happens, but I just can't see. I just don't think it would be right for her to lose this match. It's kind of like the match that we just had before, where it's not that Becky isn't a worthy competitor. We know Becky is a main eventer before. We were in WrestleMania when she had the main event match, but I'm not as sold on her winning this matchup either as compared to the last match, because I feel like Rhea just needs to get that solidifying win. Her title run, yes, it's been over for a year, but she hasn't had many prolific wins during that title run. And I think, obviously, this would be the most prolific win she can get in their title defenses. And I can very well see her having a fatal four-way in the next couple of months with her, Nia getting involved, Becky again, and then Liv Morgan. It's probably going to happen eventually down the line between those four wrestlers getting the opportunity for the title. And maybe that's where you take the title off of Rhea. But I can't see it happen at WrestleMania. I think Ripley retains as well, and she keeps her long reign as champion going on.
Now, remember, even though she doesn't have many memorable matches, the ones that she does have are probably some of the best women's matches of all time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
She has put an absolute classics in Perth at WrestleMania, absolute classic matches. So even though she hasn't, because she, at the end of the day, there's really no credible competition for her.
Right, this is
and that's not that's not insult to the rest of a women's roster. It's just, Rhea is Rhea.
It's not believable.
I mean, I keep on saying Rhea. I know it's Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
I know it's Rhea. I keep on saying Rhea. I've been doing it my entire life. I know it's Rhea Ripley. But at the end of the day, if you're 5'1", 110 pounds, and you see Rhea, who's half a foot taller than you, 60 pounds heavier than you, and she's all muscle, it's just not
Like
believable.
Nia
Someone
and
like Jade
Becky,
Cargill,
right?
believable. Nia
No, yeah,
Jax, believable. Becky's gonna be believable. Charlotte, believable. It's just hard. A lot of her roster just doesn't measure up to her.
right. And we'll have to see what happens. I mean, I could also see maybe they call up Valkyria too after NXT. I feel like she's going to lose this weekend as well.
Yeah, I think her gimmick needs work, so I think they might keep her down
I'm not
there.
saying she's believable to be Rhea for sure, but I'm saying that could be another, wrinkle to add into the roster. Maybe that's a
And
future challenger
this is
as
kind of
well.
food for thought going forward. I think the WWE Women's title is going to be used for like the more traditional champions. Let's say like your Io Sky, your Bailey, those types. And then I think the Women's World Champion is going to be like those kind of attractions, the
Mm,
Jade Cargills, the Ripleys. You know what I kind of mean? The attraction, not really
right,
the champion. Does that make sense? Kind of like
right,
how the
because
Undertaker was an attraction. He wasn't
yes,
like a face, but he was an attraction, which is
right.
kind of supersedes that.
And keep in mind, they most likely will have the WWE draft maybe a month or two after WrestleMania. So the rosters we have now are not going to be the same after, in a month or two's time, if I had to guess. I don't remember when they did the draft last year. I felt like it was in May or June. So that being, adding those people like Jay Cargill who's on SmackDown, obviously, could very much well happen where she gets drafted to Raw, and then poof, you got a Rhea Ripley versus Jay Cargill match that probably at a SummerSlam that would instantly sell tickets for that pay per view or PLE. Excuse me, I'm so used to saying pay per view, but it would sell that PLE very very much if you get a match like that down the line. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get into the final match of Saturday, that being the huge tag team match with a lot of implications going into night number 2 for this matchup. The Bloodline versus the team that might be considering themselves as this team name, but I kind of done them as freaking Nightmare, as Rock and Roman Reigns will team up to take on Seth freaking Rollins and Cody Rhodes. The implications for this match, Johnson, as we know, if Seth and Cody win, the Bloodline cannot interfere in night 2 in the matchup between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns at the Universal title match. But if The Rock and Roman Reigns win, that means it's Bloodline rules for this match, and that means anything could possibly happen in the matchup on Sunday night. So, who do you have winning this match?
The Rock didn't come back to WrestleMania to lose. That's what it is. The Bloodline's going to win this match. It's going to be Bloodline rules night 2.
Yep. I'm not even going to put more thought into it. Bloodline win the match because I think they want the best possible outcome for night number 2, and that's putting anything going on in that match between Cody and Roman. So all pure chaos can happen in that matchup. And I know you and I have certainly had our theories about that match and who could potentially interfere in that match. And I'm pretty sure we'll talk about that in a little
Whatever
bit.
happens, it's going to
Yeah.
be the most overbooked thing of all time. And Dave Meltzer, excuse me, Voldemort, is going to give it 3 stars.
Voldemort. Yeah.
He says, "Oh yeah, it was the culmination of 4 years of storytelling. Actually, probably 40 years of storytelling. Because if you want to think about it, do you know 40 years ago who's going to actually wrestle? Like 40 years ago, so it's going to be April 7th, 2024, right? Sunday night. That's the main event, right? You know who wrestled on April 7th, 1984?
I'm going to assume. Well, could it have been.
It was Dusty Rhodes, and it was
Could,
Sika Anawahi,
oh,
Roman's
okay.
father.
I
So
thought I was
40
going to
years
say
ago to
something
the
different, but
day,
yeah.
it was father versus father, now son versus son. So you can't really
Script.
write a better script than this right now. This is a story that's decades in the making.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a culmination of emotions no matter what happens. But I know it will not get a 5-star match, no matter how it is, because they will complain it's
Well,
overbooked, it's yada, yada, yada. So it won't get 5 stars, even though it may be one of the greatest wrestling matches of all
but
time, just because of the story going into it.
right, we've seen the storyline. I was about to say the storyline going into this has just been unbelievable, and every Raw and SmackDown this
Like,
last couple of weeks
imagine
has been
if
must
you were like
watch
a
television.
55, if you were like a 55-year-old man or woman, and you've been watching since the 70s, since you were a kid, and you're still a fan now. This story is the ultimate payoff for you, even if you've only been watching the last couple of years. Here's the thing about the current booking of WWE, and a lot of people don't realize this. It rewards long-term viewers the most, and if you are a short-term viewer, if you just got into it, in the last couple months, the last 6 months, this is already a very rewarding payoff for you. So if you just said, "Oh, The Rock's back, I'm going to start paying attention," the last 3 months is going to be a hell of a payoff for you.
Right.
And if anyone's been watching for 4 years, 5 years, 40 years, even more of a payoff.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this matchup for months, ever since The Rock came back.
But we're not even talking about this yet. We're talking about the actual the tag team match right now. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
We still haven't even got the match that's going to happen on Sunday, and the possibilities for that.
Shows you how exciting this match is. But let's kind of stay on schedule because I kind of derailed the ship a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was just going to point out last thought that this match is going to be fantastic no matter what happens in it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it finishes off and how it leads into our net matchups on Sunday night, especially for the main event. So let's go into Sunday now with the card that we have for that. We have 6 matches for. Actually, am I doing my math correct? I think we actually have 7.
7 what?
Is there 7 matches? I might be doing my math.
There's 7 on Saturday and there's 6 on Sunday.
I am doing my math wrong. I'm sorry. Again. I derailed the show. Let's go back on track. There's going to be 6 matches on Sunday night, and we have a couple that we have one that just recently got added as of last Friday, and obviously the other 5 being matches that have been announced weeks in advance. So for the newest match, it's a interesting matchup, a Philly street fight between the Final Testament of Karrion Kross and the Authors of Pain, taking on Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, a rivalry that has been going on for a couple of months now, and we thought maybe this would lead up to a one-on-one match, but with Authors of Pain getting back into the WWE, and obviously the Street Profits being there, now we get the 6-man tag team Philadelphia street fight. This kind of reminds me, Johnson, of the tag team matches we got last year at WrestleMania, where we expected nothing out of it, and then they just exceeded our expectations and kind of stole the show. And I feel like this matchup could very well be a bid stealer for show stealing matchup of the entire weekend, being that you're going to add a Philly street fight to it. So who do you have winning this 6-man Philly street fight?
Well, I think it's going to be a great match only because you don't really see hardcore matches in WWE, usually only on pay-per-view. Occasionally you get them on network television, but it is a TV PG rating, so I got to kind of stay in that. Give me Final Testament because they need to go over here. Street Profits and Bobby Lashley over enough already, and they kind of want to push Cross a little bit. I'm sure they'll get a payback match either at Backlash or whatever, but give me, for the big moment, give me Final Testament because I think Triple H is kind of investing a lot of time and money in him, and he kind of wants to make him look better. So give me Final Testament.
I've had trouble with this one because I feel like the team that needs it the most is the Final Testament. They need to win the match more than Bobby and
I think it's a true pick'em. Out of all these matches, this is probably the 150-50 match.
This is definitely a pick'em match because you can make the case for both teams. I think the team that needs it the most is the Final Testament because if they lose, then I really don't know where you go with
I would lose all interest in them, to be honest with you.
Right. That's the problem. You lose pretty much all interest in them if they lose this match. I'm gonna go with them as well. I feel like they're gonna probably, swerve us and put Bobby and the Street Profits to win. But they need the Final Testament if they want to be, if people want to put interest into them, they have to win this match. If they lose this match, no one's really gonna care for them, like you said, in the next couple of months because they're pretty much gonna be another faction that's pretty much doing nothing on weekly television. So they need the match more than ever. I will pick them to win. Hopefully, for their sake, maybe they actually do win. So, our next match now that we have is LA Knight and AJ Styles. They have had a rivalry that's been going on for a couple months now as well. AJ Styles has talked about how LA Knight stole his spotlight from him a couple months ago. LA Knight obviously was screwed by AJ Styles in the Elimination Chamber match as he eliminated him by using a steel chair when AJ Styles wasn't even in the matchup himself. So now these two are on a collision course for WrestleMania. They've had some interesting segments in the past couple of weeks as well, including one where LA Knight showed up to AJ Styles' own house and got arrested because of that altercation. So there's some personal animosity between these two men fighting on WrestleMania Sunday. So who do you have winning this match, Johnson, between AJ and LA Knight?
AJ and LA Knight. Give me LA Knight. He needs it more. A lot of even ourselves included, have him fighting for a title here. I don't know what his payoff's gonna be, but certainly not yet.
SummerSlam.
Yep. This is 2 years in the making right now. Over 2 years in the making for
Yeah.
his payoff.
No pun intended, but yeah, like
Yeah, yeah.
he's got to
And at
get
the
it.
end of the day, it's because a
He's
lot
got
of
to win.
titles is being held hostage. I know Triple H loves his long reigns, but you have hundreds of days being held up for the world title, the U.S. title, Intercontinental. It's just that no one has moved title belts in so long that
Right,
it's holding up plans for everyone else. So get a bunch of these in here, get a bunch of title changes so we can start playing hot potato a little bit. We've had
right.
fun the last 2 years, but
Mhm.
let's get some hot potato going
Like he
on.
has to win because he can either set him up for maybe a Money in the Bank ladder match win, or he gets a singles title at SummerSlam. It's gonna be one of the other. It's gonna be one of the two. Not sure which one it is going to be, but it has to set up that matchup for him to win one of those two at one of those two PLEs. So I have him winning as well. Pretty much no argument there. He has to win. It's kind of like the Final Testament match where he has to win because AJ really doesn't need it at the end of the day. He's pretty much just trying to help the younger talent get over. And I know it's really saying much saying LA Knight's the younger talent, but you know what I'm getting at. They're
To
still
bear the
building him up.
younger talent.
I know. So they're still trying to build him up as one of the top stars in the WWE. I have LA Knight winning as well. Now, the matchup we thought he was going to be in was for the U.S. title against Logan Paul, but plans for that change. He gets the matchup with AJ Styles, and Logan Paul is now inserted into a triple threat match against both Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. Logan Paul, obviously the champion in this matchup, has had his history with both of these men. He got disqualified at the Royal Rumble against Kevin Owens to retain the title. He cost Randy Orton a shot at the World Heavyweight title in the Elimination Chamber after Randy eliminated him from the match. So now sets up this triple threat match with Logan Paul defending the title against both of these men. Who do you have winning this U.S. title match, Johnson? Who do you have walking out of WrestleMania as the champion?
Oh boy, I don't think Logan Paul can hold it that much longer. I don't think they put the U.S. title on Randy, so give me Kevin Owens by default.
You're going with Kevin Owens.
I'm gonna go Kevin Owens. I think Logan Paul is the favorite here, but they gotta have. He's not. I mean, now he's on television a bunch, but like he's your TV champion. He has to be there every week, not every 2 weeks. He has to be there every week.
Yeah,
So give me Kevin Owens. I need someone who's gonna show up.
that's fair. I'm gonna go with Logan Paul, and it's strictly because of the fact that the SummerSlam is going to be in Cleveland, and he's going to be on one of the more marquee matches before that PLE. Whether that be for his title or maybe
Is the
for a
one for
world
LeBron?
title, yeah, maybe could be against LeBron. Yeah, who knows? But I feel like they're setting up for Logan and LA Knight for the U.S. title at SummerSlam. I feel like that is the motion that's going to happen in the next couple of months. And I just feel like Logan Paul is going to have one of those reigns that, unfortunately, like you said, is going to be a long reign as champion. Maybe he doesn't show up at every PLE, but I feel like he'll show up at least once or twice. He'll probably be at some of the other PLEs if you think about it too, considering that they're going to be in different markets where they're obviously going to Berlin, they're going to France, they're going to Canada. He'll probably be on those shows regardless. It just you won't see him as often on television for those leading up to those shows. So I have Logan Paul retaining the U.S. title regardless, and he'll probably holding it to SummerSlam. That's where I think he's going to lose the title.
Okay, we got our final three, and they're all big matches. So
Yep.
let you kind of go over them.
We have the women's title between Io and Bayley. We know Bayley won the Royal Rumble. The former leader of Damage Control. She was betrayed by Io, Asuka, Kyrie, Dakota. All of them along the way to get to this matchup. Uh, I don't know about you, but I feel like the story started off decent for these two. It's kind of been derailed the last couple of weeks. It hasn't been featured as much between the two, and now
Have The Rock on television. It's gonna
right.
happen.
I feel like this is people are kind of comparing this to Charlotte and Rhea's match last year, where this build wasn't great, but then it led to a solid match, and maybe this could be a solid match at the end of the day, but the build just hasn't been as great as we
Well,
expected it to be.
if you've noticed why they've kind of keeping EO off television, because if you watched her in NXT, she's a phenomenal performer. She gets a lot of oohs and ahs. She's a high flyer, and they don't want the crowd, like the mainstream crowd, cheering for her because she's the heel here.
Yeah,
Bailey's the face, and they want the crowd behind Bailey because I think they want to put it on her. That's gonna be my pick.
that's mine as well.
But that's why they're not having her kind of defend as much, because when you watch her wrestle in the ring, she's like, wow, she could really. And they don't want you to cheer for her. They want you to boo her on Saturday or Sunday, right?
It's on
This
Sunday,
match is
yeah,
on Sunday,
yeah.
yeah. They want you to boo her on Sunday. So give me Bailey. Story 2 years in the making, and she finally gets her big WrestleMania moment.
I think what's going to happen is I mentioned earlier. I think Bianca, Naomi, and Jade will help her win because Damage Control is going to get involved at some point in this matchup, I believe. But I feel like Io will get cheered soon because I feel like you mentioned maybe a split in the group with Damage Control. Maybe the next, SmackDown, maybe even on Raw, is where you start to finally see the cracks and Io finally breaks away from the group because she could be a good babyface. We saw that in NXT, as you mentioned. So I feel like it's going to happen sooner rather than later. They got to get the title off of her first. And I think it starts at WrestleMania. I have Bayley winning as well. She becomes the women's champion and gets her WrestleMania payoff after these 2 years where she came back from injury and started this formatting of the group of Damage Control. So I think she gets her moment regardless. But another person trying to get their moment is Drew McIntyre. We know that he won the title in 2020 during COVID, and with no fans in the arena, could not get his WrestleMania moment because of that. And he went through an entire pandemic era with no fans as the champion. Has never gotten his moment since. Well, on Sunday, Johnson, he might have the opportunity to do so as he will challenge Seth friggin' Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. Drew obviously won the Elimination Chamber to earn this right. Obviously, we know the stuff that's gone on the last couple of weeks where, he talked about how he injured CM Punk in the Royal Rumble. He then took CM Punk's spot at WrestleMania because this was going to be CM Punk's spot for the title. And he's obviously setting up a matchup with CM Punk when Punk comes back from his injury. He will be on commentary for this matchup between the two men. Who knows? Maybe even gets involved in the matchup accidentally and costs one of these men the match. But regardless, who do you think comes out on top as the World Heavyweight Champion?
I want to say that Drew McIntyre is having the best work of his career. That goes independence, TNA, ICW, WWE, NXT, whatever. This is the best work of his career, the best character work by far. His vignettes are great. His promos are even better. If they don't put the title on him, then no one is going to beat Seth. Seth needs some time off.
Yeah.
Let him and Becky kind of go home, take care of your daughter, have a fun summer off together, maybe come back at SummerSlam, have some time, be a family together, and give him his WrestleMania moment in front of the fans. I realize he won it in the pandemic in front of a warehouse 4 years ago, but now he deserves to have it in front of everyone else. So give him his WrestleMania moment. Let him beat Seth Rollins. Give me Drew McIntyre.
The only other scenario, if it's not him or Seth winning, is Damian Priest maybe cashing in, maybe either during the match or after the match. But we've been trying to, predict when he's going to cash in for over a year, pretty much almost a year now. And I really feel it's going to happen this week. I don't know if it's going to happen during this matchup or the next matchup that we're going to talk about. I feel like they're setting it up very, very soon. And who knows, maybe he even does it in night one where Priest can cash in and then sets up maybe a triple threat on night two between them. But I agree with you. Drew has to win this match. He's had a great stretch his last couple of weeks and months since he turned heel, putting up this, as you mentioned, some of the best work of his entire career. And there has to be a payoff for it. He's going to get that payoff at WrestleMania. He'll finally get his moment in front of the fans, and he will become the new World Heavyweight Champion. So I agree with you on that one as well. And that now leads us to our final match, Johnson. The biggest matchup we have all week. And depending on what happens in night one, we'll have to see what the scenario will be. But if our prediction is correct, it will be Bloodline rules for that matchup. The undisputed Universal title on the line. The record-setting reign of Roman Reigns, where I believe on Saturday and Sunday he will tie Hulk Hogan's record for most main events of WrestleMania history, and then on Sunday night he will break that record. So big weekend for Roman Reigns. Obviously, also if he can hold his title reign to September, he will break Hulk Hogan's title reign for longest reign as a WWE champion. So Roman still got a lot on his plate going for these next couple of months, and obviously on the other side of things, Cody Rhodes, second straight year he's won the Royal Rumble, wants revenge from last year's WrestleMania. Didn't look like originally he was going to have this matchup for a couple people's perspectives after The Rock returned. He does get this matchup, but it could be under Bloodline rules, which means anything can happen. Anyone can possibly show up, and we've certainly heard rumors of maybe who will potentially show up in this match if it is Bloodline rules. So, Johnson, I know you have had your thoughts about this matchup for a couple of weeks now, talking to me about it, but for our listeners at home, who do you have winning this matchup and coming out as the Universal Champion?
So this is what I will say. If Cody Rhodes does win this match, this is why. they've kind of steered away over the last 2 months on television, talking about Hulk Hogan's reign, how long it's been, and how many main events he's had in WrestleMania. If you've noticed that,
They have.
because right now Hulk Hogan has the most main events in WrestleMania, and that wasn't really a thing. I mean, it's always been a thing, right? But it hasn't been a thing on television until recently. So if they do decide to steer away and say, you know what, we're going with Cody, that's why, because Roman's going to break the main event record this weekend. That's it. Like, it's always going to be his. I don't think we will have enough person, man or woman, down the
No,
line,
it's
get
yeah.
more than 10 main events than him. That's going to be it. He's going to have main evented 25% of all WrestleManias with people such as Brock Lesnar, John Cena, The Undertaker, Edge, Daniel Bryan, the whole nine. He is the main event. Now, if he doesn't win, they want him to break that record, and they're kind of putting it out of your minds, like, well, whatever, yada yada yada. I'm gonna say Roman here because I've said this time and time again. Cody's story does not need to end at WrestleMania, and I think would be even fun. The funniest thing would happen here if Cody does win, and then 30 seconds later, Damian Priest ends it, because that's how you get infinite heat on this man. If you want to build a heel, that is how you get a nuclear amount of heat on this guy. 30 seconds to Cody, he hits the music. He can barely walk. His bloodline rules. You had John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker, Thanos come out and defend Cody Rhodes and fend off the bloodline. And it's a great moment. And then all of a sudden you hear Judgment Day music. You hear Alter Bridge hit. And then Damian Priest cashes in. And then 2 minutes into Cody's reign, his story, yeah, you're right. He finished the story, but he didn't get his fairy tale ending. So if you want to create something with nuclear heat, that's how you do it.
Right.
It would be bigger than the heist of the century with Seth Rollins taken away from Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns about 8 years ago. That's 8 years ago now, about 7 years ago. Crazy when you think about it.
9 years, actually.
9 years. Wow, I'm underselling myself here. 2015, right?
Almost a decade ago, yeah.
Jeez. But that's how you do it, right? But I'm going to say Roman goes over here because I've been saying this again. He does not need to lose at WrestleMania. I don't care. Oh, he has to lose at WrestleMania. That's you shoehorning it in, right? He doesn't have to lose at Mania. But I'm gonna go for Roman here. I know Cody's the heavy favorite at -400, I think.
Yeah.
But -400, you see those upsets all the time. So it would be an upset, but it wouldn't be a monumental upset because Roman Reigns is +250.
Yeah.
Barely 2-1 odds right now. So implied probability of Roman winning this match is 33%.
Right.
Not to sound like Scott Steiner right now, but the implied probability is about 33% of Roman coming out as champion. So I'll take those odds.
The scenarios for this matchup are limitless. You could have a multitude of things happen. Seth could turn on Cody. Rock could turn on Roman. Someone can show up like a John Cena, or you've even said Stone Cold Steve Austin maybe showing up to help fend off the bloodline. Who even knows? Kevin Owens and Randy Orton have had their history. Sami Zayn's had his history. Jey Uso will probably be involved at some point in this matchup as well, because you're bound to believe Jimmy Uso will be involved as well. There's going to be so much, and you mentioned it. It's going to be the most overbooked match we'll probably ever see, but it will definitely be the right setting for this match.
It's overbooking.
Because it deserves its overbooking because of how well it's been built. This matchup has been brewing since last year's WrestleMania. Everyone has compared it to The Rock and Cena from WrestleMania's 28 to 29. That story arc there. And when you brought up the Damian Priest factor, where if Cody won, I could see that happening because, remember, during the hype of the Yes Movement when it started, Daniel Bryan won the title from John Cena, immediately lost it right after because of a Randy Orton cash-in. So the fans got their moment and then immediately was taken away from them in that moment. So that's very possible that Cody wins this matchup, sure, and then Damian Priest cashes in right after, and everyone goes home pissed off. And that's why I mentioned Damian Priest. I feel like it's going to cash in this week. I think it's definitely going to happen. He loses the tag titles, and he will be involved in a cash-in for either one of the two titles. Maybe even the Intercontinental title. I doubt it, but that would be really bad if it was the Intercontinental title. For this match, I think with all the all the predictions of who's going to get involved, and I would love to see Cena and Austin get involved in this matchup. It would be pure chaos, but the good type of chaos. that I would love to see in a wrestling ring, because as a fan of over 25 plus years watching this stuff, getting to see some of your these icons in a matchup like this just speaks volumes to how big this matchup is been for all these months now. And it just ties into every storyline. Rock and Austin. Cena obviously got beat up by Solo and has history with Roman. Obviously, that would be fun to see them get involved as well. So for me, I feel like they're setting up where I think this is going to be Cody's moment. I think he finally gets it done and wins the title. And my reasoning being is that I think they're going to set up a matchup between The Rock and Roman, where Roman will take some time off. He'll come back and fight The Rock, and Roman will actually be the face for that feud, because The Rock will be like, well, Roman is not fit enough to be the tribal chief. I'm going to be the new tribal chief. And maybe, obviously, it won't be maybe it could be a next year's WrestleMania. Who knows? But you've seen it for a while. They kind of want to push Roman as a face, considering his first face run went absolutely horrible, and they want to now make it right. And I feel like they're going to definitely do it down the line eventually. And the only way they get that star is if he loses the title. It's going to have to happen sooner rather than later. And I feel like the way that they've been building Cody up is just, I can't see him losing this matchup. It's going to be one where, as you mentioned, he's fighting all the odds. It doesn't look like he's going to win the match, especially after they lose on night one. But somehow, some way, he wins on night two. And I talked to you about it also. Whoever wins on night one is probably not going to win on night two. So
Yep, I agree.
So Cody and Seth win on night one. Cody's now winning night two. But if it's Rock and Roman winning on night one, then Cody most likely is going to win on night two. That's how I feel like that's going to happen for this matchup. And that's where I stand on it. I feel like no matter what, though, the fans will be happy regardless. Even if Cody were to get cashed in on after the show ends, I still think you still get an unbelievable WrestleMania. They're building it as the biggest WrestleMania of all time, and I think we get it this upcoming weekend.
Well, you know how he does lose this match, right?
Uh,
Roman is going to put John Cena. He's going to stack John Cena, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, The Undertaker, Thanos, and Roman on top of him. And he's going to put his foot over all of them. And he's going to pin them all. That's how it's going to happen. Shout out to Brian. I know he's out right now having a fun time, but if he listens to this,
shout out to him as well for his birthday.
Shout out to him. So he could clip this and listen to it. That's how Roman wins the match, by stacking up the WrestleMania icons from every single decade, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. And that's how he wins the match.
It's tough to say what would be the bigger heel moment, him doing that or Damian Priest cashing in on Cody if Cody won the title.
I think Damian Priest doing that, because you can't buy that amount of heat.
His heat
like that heat is bought
Yeah.
by him pinning everyone like that in the ring, like he kind of did with Edge and Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
That heat was like whatever, but if you buy all those guys come out there, that's bought heat. You cannot buy that heat he's going to get if that actually happens, if he steals it.
Yeah,
you cannot, you can't manufacture that.
They say that with Dominic Mysterio, where he has like that big heat, and like everyone hates him. Priest would probably become the most hated man in the company if he were to cash in on Cody after Cody finally wins the big one. Oh man. I like I told you, and I'm gonna tell everyone here, this is probably the most unpredictable Mania we've had maybe ever. Because yes, some matches might be predictable and you could probably guess who's gonna win. But the scenarios that you have for all these matches is what makes it unpredictable. And that's where, as a fan, that's what makes it really fun to go into the show and watch to see what's gonna happen. Because going in person, you don't have a commentary team saying what's happening around ringside. You're gonna find out for yourself as the night goes along. So
I'm gonna be looking at the big screen. Well, I'll be in the 100s. So
yeah, I won't be too far away from you either. So because keep in mind we're going to WrestleMania together, but we're not going to be sitting together.
Yeah, you'll be in 109 night 2 of those. We'll be in the same section.
Yeah, we'll be in the same section night 2. Listen.
That's all you want.
That's all I want for night 2. I'm really excited for this WrestleMania. We both went to 35, a very long show. The last one night WrestleMania we've ever had. So we were part of history for that one for a multitude of reasons.
And we didn't even know it.
Yeah, we didn't even know.
No, 36. Yeah, 30. Yeah, 35 was 2019. You're right.
The last one night show we've had for WrestleMania, and that was the night where we had the first Women's All main event, and that was the night where we also had a 6-hour show and didn't get home till 3 a.m. in the morning, probably.
Yep, I got home at 4 o'clock in the morning. I had to be up at 5:30, so go me. That's not
So,
happening this year, though.
yep, definitely not happening this year. Friday, we leave for our trip. We will return, I think, on Sunday night is when we are planning on starting
Probably
our new show.
Early Monday morning,
Yeah,
but yeah,
early
same
Monday morning. But yeah,
difference.
we're leaving Sunday night after the show is over, getting back to Staten Island, where we're from, and getting home for after this incredible week. Obviously, it's going to happen. But your second WrestleMania of all time, my third WrestleMania of all time. It should be a fun weekend. So, with that being said, Johnson, any final words before we wrap up tonight's show? Get ready for this upcoming weekend.
The world's gonna acknowledge Roman on the largest stage of all time.
I mean, they should have acknowledged him already. That's to say the least. They should be
Oh, you're gonna
acknowledging
acknowledge
the
him after
champion
this
lead.
weekend.
Well,
Certainly after this weekend.
if they are not acknowledging him after this weekend, they might be acknowledging Cody Rhodes. We do not know. There's a lot to be said and a lot to be happening in the next couple days, and next week we'll have to see if we have a whole new landscape of WWE. I'm certainly looking forward to it. I know you are looking forward to it, and I know all the WWE fans are looking forward to it. So we'll see how it all plays out. But for us here at the All Gas No Break Sports Show, that is going to do it for tonight's episode. WrestleMania is just a few short days away. Saturday, the first night of WrestleMania. Keep in mind, also NXT and the Hall of Fame and SmackDown as well on Friday. A long week for WrestleMania week. Friday, as I mentioned, SmackDown and the Hall of Fame. Saturday is Stand and Deliver, as well as Night 1 of WrestleMania. Sunday, Night 2, and Monday Night Raw, the following night after. A long week of wrestling, and it should be a fun one for us here on the All Gas No Breaks Sports Show, as well as all the WWE fans. But for us here at the All Gas No Break Sports Show, this has been Nicholas Pavona and Andrew Johnson with the show this week. Please enjoy your WrestleMania weekend, and we will see you next week for the show as we recap college basketball as well as WrestleMania.